Throw it down, big man.
Welcome everybody back to the Throw It Down Big Fella podcast. I am your host, Greg Rufus, and ladies and gentlemen, I have a very special guest with me today. I've known this man for a very long time. We grew up at church together back in Norris Road Church of Christ, the heydays. He currently
No
attends
doubt.
Coleman Avenue. He currently attends Coleman Avenue. Without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I welcome Mr. Michael Miles. Michael, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for joining me.
Good morning, man. Thank you, Greg, for this opportunity. Join the throw it down, big fella.
Yeah.
You throw it down, and I gotta throw it up. So, hey, man, it's good to connect with you and
Yeah.
to be on this podcast with
Oh, thank you. You want to tell people what you do, like a little bit about yourself? Quick 10, 20 seconds. Like,
you. Man, I'm just your regular guy, really. I'm a humble guy. Uh, I am involved. I attend Coleman Avenue Church of Christ, and I'm a youth counselor. Um, I'm also a deacon there. I work there, love working with the congregation there, working with the youth, and married 15 years, father of 3 girls, and man, we're just having a good time. Man, God's been good to us, and just glad to be on, man, this podcast.
thank you for joining us. So, on this episode, you guys, we're going to talk about like what can like several things. Like one, what can we do to help the young men and women of today to be better? And teenagers, young adults, like they go through a lot, so much in this world today. So we try to give out some good vices or ideas that can get them out of trouble because as me as a photographer, I see a lot of stuff, a lot of unwarranted stuff that I probably should never see. And so I think it's so important to like steer them right now. Get a head grip on it now, especially with the new year coming, like new year now. So I'm gonna get your advice on that, and also the legacy of Dr. Martin Luther King. Of course, next week, next Monday is MLK Day. Very important day for me. It's one of the few holidays that I can look up to, idolize a hero that I grew up admiring. In fact, I was in a church pageant, and that was actually my talent that I recited the Dr. King I Have a Dream speech. It was so important. It took me a long time to get that speech and to get the mannerisms that Dr. King was doing. So I want to talk about that. And I couldn't like this is a sports podcast, but I had to throw in a little football at the end. Get your thoughts on the divisional playoff round that's this week coming up. Some great games. I want to give your thoughts on that and why. But before we get started with this wonderful episode, I ask you guys to please subscribe to my podcast on YouTube at Throw It Down Big Fella. Also follow on
Yes.
Instagram at Throw It Down Big Fella Pod and leave your comments and all that on there. I would surely appreciate that and love to read that. So check all that out. All right, you guys. Let's start off, like I said, with this episode. And Mike, first question I want to toss up, like I said in the earlier mentioned, what can we do to get to impact the teenagers and the young men and young women? What can we do? What are some tips that you want to give out?
I think it's just in general, what can we do to help young men and women today? With the first point that you mentioned is just kind of be around just better people. Surround yourself with better people, people that have the same goals as you do, at the same focus. It's important to seek that group of people that are going to help you progress and not hinder you in the goals you set for yourself in your life. You definitely can't be afraid to be uncomfortable. You have to, get out of your comfort zone and don't be afraid to be uncomfortable. It definitely takes personal sacrifice in order to be better. You have to do things differently. Most of the time, uh, you have to give up. You're going to have to give up something in order to gain something.
Mhm.
So you have to be flexible, and sacrifice, and you got to be mentally tough. Um, I remember a time where uh, the job I left a job to take on another job that I had zero experience in,
Mhm.
and at the time I was working for Agape Child and Family Services, and had been there for years. And then I moved on to a steel company called Nucor, and so it was two completely different environments, but it had been something that I kind of been praying for in our, uh, I guess, in our early stage of marriage. I don't consider myself an OG at all, even though we've been married 15 years. But you
Right.
know, God has a sense of humor, and His timing is impeccable. And so, in order to better our financial situation, um, had one had to wait for to get that phone call from Nucor. It took me about 2 years to get on
Mhm.
to that job opportunity. But as soon as I walked in, I had to completely forget everything, all my prior experiences, and embrace a whole new environment, a whole new, a whole new everything, teammates, people,
Mhm.
um, everything just completely changed when I walked through the door. And so you got to be mentally tough
Mhm.
uh, if you want to be better or improve in a certain aspect of your life. And then um, once you're in that position, you kind of have to find a competitive edge or have a competitive edge. You have to walk in saying, I'm going to be better than this group, not in a prideful type of way, but in a humble way. Just be like, I'm gonna be the best that I can be, in this position, and I'm not gonna outdo you, you know, respectfully.
Right.
You know, you have that mindset of continuous improvement and self awareness of I'm not where I want to be, but I'm striving to be better.
Mm.
So you gotta look in the mirror. You gotta self assess. You gotta be honest with your weaknesses. You gotta work on continuing to improve your strengths, work on your weaknesses, and you have to pray. You have to pray. There's a spiritual aspect to it as well.
Mhm.
You gotta pray all the time. I pray each and every time, or before I walk in the building at work, that the Lord just help me get through the day. It's a tough job. We work 12-hour shifts, but it's a tough job, and you have to be prayed up. You have to be focused. And so we think about what we can do to help young men and women today. I would summarize that's how we can become better
Mhm.
individually.
Okay. That was really, really good points. I mean, especially the prayed up part. I think for me, if I go back to me growing up and where I'm at today in my life, I wanted to always be in the in crowd. And people like when they always the following saying is if you want to fit out, you need to fit in or fit in, fit out. You need to be your own person. Like you were
Mhm.
saying earlier about being your own individual and not
Yeah,
saying yes to the yes crowd all the time. Being outside,
yeah,
being your Christian values, being that man, that young man and young woman that you want to be without having to do the stuff that you know is not right. And
right.
it's easier said than done. You
Yeah,
can testify to this, Mike. I can testify to it. Growing up in Memphis, you're from Virginia, so you
yep,
moved down here, and you see
yep,
all the cultural shock and all that going
yeah,
on, and people how they really act compared to how you were in Virginia. I mean, it's completely, and everywhere is different from Chicago to Texas to everywhere is different, but specifically here in the Mid South, Memphis, they are just there's just not enough positive leaders in the world. The only positive leaders should be in the household: mom, dad,
Yeah,
aunt, uncle. I mean, you if you walk to school and you see how some of these parents talk to these children, it's
yeah,
ridiculous. I don't see
yeah.
how they can even be positive, motivated to do anything in life the way these parents talk to these children. That needs to stop. That needs to stop, and it starts, like you said, homegrown. Like they need to like learn how to be positive individuals without their parents, their own blood, talking about them the way they do. So it starts in the household. The parents have to install structure and install some good positive motivational God fear something like that along the lines and just make them better. And I just think if they do that, I think we can have a better, like it could just be better living for these
Yeah.
teenagers because they go through a lot. Like social media and what they see on TV, it's just growing and growing and growing compared to how me and you were growing up. It's different avenues that I've never seen before. You probably never seen before, Mike. It's just they
Oh
need to
yeah,
start that.
it's definitely different. I
Yeah.
mean, uh, we have three girls, aged 10, 7, and 4.
Hmm.
And I tell my parents, I can't raise them the same way that you all raised us. It's a whole new world. It's a whole new culture.
Hmm.
It's completely different, and you definitely kind of learn on the fly in a lot of ways. But you got to stick to your morals and at least stick to the foundation of what you were raised on
Hmm.
what you were built on. The foundation should never change. The structure may be different, you know,
Yeah.
the
It's
structure of the building may be different, but the foundation
still there.
stays the exact same.
Hmm.
The characteristics, the morals, the good habits, all those things, they should, stay the same. The home training, all
Hmm.
those things should stay the same. And I think about the things that I stay on my girls on, and I'm like, man, I must have did the exact same thing to my parents
Right.
that they're doing to me, and now I'm receiving the other end of it.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and I have a greater understanding each and every day of what it's like to be a parent,
Hmm.
because the truth is, married, single, parent,
Hmm.
we've never arrived.
Hmm.
We're always learning, we're always growing. And that's a part of being better, is recognizing, hey, there's so much more that I can do. There's so much more that I can be, just thinking outside the box. The one thing we cannot do um is be lazy,
Hmm.
and we can't procrastinate. And um, we have to constantly work on our character, and whatever that may be, you
Yeah.
know, whether it's prayer, whether it's Bible study, whether it's self-help books,
Hmm.
whether it's um, finding a mentor, somebody you can talk to, they'll hold you accountable. The one thing that we absolutely, I believe, have to do is we have to learn how to set boundaries,
Yeah.
and also find a balance. Like, when it comes to boundaries, we have to make up in our minds what we're not going to do
Hmm.
and stick to it.
Hmm.
You know, Prayerfully, it's the right thing, but we have to set boundaries, and then we have to have a balance in knowing when to cut things off.
It's funny that you mentioned your three wonderful daughters. And this is what me and my wife are talking about. I actually would like two daughters. I would like two healthy babies. Let me just clarify that now.
Yeah,
But my preference
yeah,
would be
stick.
to have
Yeah,
daughters. I mean, I, I just it's something about being a protective guy. Like I'm protecting the whole family type of thing. So I grew up with that mindset. I want two daughters, two daughters. But I'll take boys. I'll take them. Boy, girl, two boys, two girls. But one, I want to have two beautiful, healthy children, God willing.
yeah,
But like you said, bring it back that table, bring it back with like the Family Matter. You know how you would just watch TV shows or watch or just look at the Cosby Show. Like bring that type
Yeah.
of family vibe back into it. I think slowly, I think it could get back to what it used to be. But like you said, it starts to me, it starts in the household, and that's where it ends. If you don't
Yeah.
want to go to church, if you're not wanting to do anything, to have that right mindset, what do you think the children, like you said, the parents, they imitate what you do and what you are. They're not going to want to do that. They're not going to want to go to church or go to Bible study or do their homework. Like simple stuff like that. Did you do your homework? Did you take out the trash? Did you start them off early? If you start them off early,
Yeah.
I promise you, they're gonna be good. Like
Yeah.
mentally, they're gonna be good. So I think it's like I said, family. It starts in the household, and
Yeah.
it starts and ends in the household. Did you
Yeah.
want to add anything else to that? We can move on to this next part.
Hey, all good points. All
Mhm.
good points, man.
Yeah.
Um, it kind of, I guess, does lead to the next subject of, I guess, we're talking about Martin Luther King and his legacy,
Yes. Yes.
and kind of the impact that he brought to the to the table,
Hmm.
the dinner table, the social table, you know, all the tables, um, every table you could think of. He brought
Yeah.
a whole lot with his legacy, and I just thinking about one thing about Martin Luther King in Memphis in general. I am from Virginia, a Confederate state, and moving down here, there seemed to be was like stepping back 10 years when we first initially moved, because it just seemed like there's everything seemed so racial. Um, and so when I think about Martin Luther King and his legacy, uh, I think about just a visionary leader. I think about, his faith, his wisdom, his fearlessness. Yeah, yeah, bold ideas, uh, courage, courage. Man, I mean, talking about one of the courageous Davids there ever was.
Yeah.
That was able to do just extraordinary things. Courageously. His influence on men and women uh, was crucial. I think for our parents, their parents, our great great greats,
Hmm.
the impact that Martin Luther King had in Memphis. Every time uh, I go visit the Civil Rights Museum,
Yeah.
and we get to the part where Martin Luther King stood, it's just it's just a it's just a feeling that I get over, that I get
Hmm.
just knowing that this is where Martin Luther King stood when he died. You know, this
Yeah.
is where he was standing. This is where he stayed. This is where he laid his head. You know, I have just a awe and respect for his legacy and the history that he brought to this city. And I love Memphis. I love Memphis, man. Um, because of it, just because of the legacy of the Martin Luther King here and the legacy. And I mean, the reason he was down here, I am a man, coming to support workers.
Sanitation strike. Yeah.
Yep,
Yeah.
to support workers.
Mhm.
It's so important. MLK Day is so important. Um, January the 20th, it's a day of community service.
Mhm.
It's a day of reflection. It's a day to, recommit to love each other,
Mhm.
and just the challenge to be unconditional,
Yeah.
in uh our approach to people, how we treat people.
Before we close this episode out, I want to talk a little bit of football. This is a sports podcast, but I like to
Yeah,
diverse into other range of topics as well. But football, divisional playoffs.
yeah,
Um, the first game is that Saturday, Kansas City and Houston. Who do you think wins this game, Mike?
Oh boy. Uh it's hard to pick against Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes. It
Too hard.
really is. I
Yeah.
mean, divisional round, I think they're I mean, obviously they're undefeated. Andy Reid, uh he's a Hall of Fame coach,
Yeah.
just a legendary career. It's hard to pick against Mahomes and a healthy Kansas City team. Houston to me has been just inconsistent and underperforming
Mm-hmm.
considering last year.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think a lot of that had to do with their probably just uh, Houston inability to protect CJ Stroud, throughout the season.
Yeah.
But they
Injuries too.
really Houston to me, they haven't really beaten any really good playoff teams. Their best win this year's was against Buffalo early in the season,
Mm-hmm.
you know. But I mean my pick is Kansas City. I think I'm not gonna say it's gonna be a blowout. I think it'll be a tight game. Kansas City, they just find a way to win. I just feel like Kansas City is they're growing and they're peaking at the right time.
Yeah.
They're in the beginning of the year they were making a lot of turnovers. Mahomes was not having he really didn't have a great phenomenal year,
Right.
even though at this stage of his career, some would consider him m- the greatest of all time. From a quarterback standpoint,
Mm,
accolade standpoint, uh, and he's got so many years to play. And I think, I was just thinking about it this morning. I was like, we need to really just stop and just take a deep breath and appreciate what Patrick Mahomes has done.
yeah.
Because right now there's a whole lot of people. I know we're going to talk about Baltimore and Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
We're talking about every other quarterback out there except Patrick Mahomes enough. He's on the road of trying to three-peat.
Yeah. Never
You
been
know,
done before. Never
he's
been done before.
trying to
Yeah.
three-peat,
Yeah.
3 championships in a row,
Right.
you know? So, yeah, this is hard to pick against, Kansas City, against Houston. My pick is Kansas City. I just think they just got too many weapons. They got Hopkins. They traded for Hopkins, okay?
Which is the
They
dumbest
traded
trade.
they added a guy.
This is the dumbest trade
They
in
got
Titans can
Hunt,
do.
they got Pacheco running the ball, both of them
Yeah.
healthy, usual, two-headed monster in the backfield. They got Hollywood Brown coming back. He's getting back in the groove.
Mm-hmm.
They got weapons. They got Kelsey, who we haven't talked about much at all, and his numbers are down this year. But
Mm-hmm.
they got it all. They got everything they need. They got defense, they got experience. Chris Jones, I just think he's going to give Stroud a whole lot of problems.
Mm-hmm. Xavier
He's
Worthy.
get a lot
Xavier.
of yeah, Xavier Worthy. I mean, they're gonna give
Houston
Houston
Rock.
a lot. Houston, you got a problem.
You
You got a problem, Houston.
got a huge problem, Houston. Yep.
You got a Mahomes problem, Houston. It's on the road. You know,
Cold. It's gonna be
I
cold.
hope it's not a blowout. I think in the future, Stroud and Houston, they're going to get there, but it's this year's just not it.
It's not it.
I'd be surprised if they beat Kansas City.
Yeah, that would be a shock. It wouldn't be the the shocker of the shocker because the next game we're talking about that would be a shocker for me. But yeah, I pick Kansas City. I think it's gonna be closer to what people think though. I think it's like 27-20, close. Kansas City, they do not cover spreads a lot good at all. They're very slow. I just feel like they're gonna start off slow. And I get what you're saying about Mahomes. Mahomes, he picks up a beat after a while. He's like, all right, I'm playing around. I'm not. It takes a while to get a groove in. Kansas City has played like this all year, even though they only have one loss. Yeah, one loss all year. Um, they
Yeah,
find a way
one
to
real
pick it up.
loss.
One real loss against Buffalo. I think that's like the biggest threat to them is Buffalo Bills. I think Kansas City wins the game. Andy Reid said they've got rest. You know, if you're the number one seed, you deserve a rest, and they've got
three
plenty of
weeks
rest.
of
They're ready to go. Yeah. So, um, I think they'll come out and win the game. Echoing what you said, repeating what you said. I mean, they're yeah. And I'm looking at the weather, but right now I'm the meteorologist for this podcast. It's gonna be 23 degrees
yeah.
game time. Clear weather. So yeah, I think it's gonna. Houston doesn't like cold. I'm just. It's gonna be cold. So actually, to be meteorologist, two of the games, well, actually three. One of them is in the dome, so it doesn't count. But the other two games are snow games, and it's
Mm,
the Sunday game. So I think weather's going to play a lot of this. But I got
mhm.
Kansas City winning. Their defense. It's the Patriots or the Kansas City. Tom Brady had
Kansas
what
City
he
way.
had. It's the Kansas. It's the same way. The defense is just going to light them up. But I give credit to D'Amico Ryans in Houston. They'd had a kind of okay year. Injuries killed them. You know, Tank Dell
Yeah.
and
They keep going.
they keep going.
You know,
They keep going. That's
Nico
all you can ask
Collins
for. Mm-hmm.
back. You know,
Mm-hmm.
and that might be one of the contributing factors to them. You know, losing their. You know, Houston has had their injuries too.
Right.
You know, as far as like their weapons, but they definitely have the pieces to grow and to be a threat in the future. But
Mm-hmm.
this
Yeah.
Saturday,
It's over.
uh,
It's,
nah,
it's over. I agree with you. Let's go to the next game. The Washington Commanders in Detroit. What do you got?
man. My pick is Detroit, but I love what Jaden Daniels is doing.
He's
I'm a
amazing. He's amazing.
Jaden Daniels fan. He to me is much watch
Mm-hmm.
TV. You know, like Johnny Manziel, Texas A&M, must
Yeah.
watch
Texas
TV.
A&M. Texas A&M
Top
part completely.
Shador Sanders, like
Yeah.
must watch. You know,
Yeah.
television. He's he's overachieved. He's done a whole lot for the Washington Commanders. I mean, we talk about the history of Detroit football and their demise and how just poorly they've played. How bad they've been several years. The Redskins have been bad too. They
Mm-hmm.
have been equally just as bad as Detroit has been. But man, Jaden Daniels has brought a lot of hope to that organization. I think I you know, whew,
Shout out to
it's
Dan Snyder.
because Detroit, they've dealt with their share of injuries, but Detroit just seems to be on a mission. You know, they just seem to be on a mission. Ain't nothing is going to stop them from getting over the hump or getting to that championship game or getting to the NFC championship game. Um, but I love what Jaden Daniels is doing. I think if they continue to, they next step for them is just to add a few more offensive, defensive weapons here and there. I think he's like Jaden Daniels is like the Wembanyama of the of the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the the stars, the players want to play for him, play with the Commanders.
Mm-hmm.
That's just how big up and coming there is. I hope that they can keep their coaching staff together,
Yeah.
and that's probably the most likely change. But I hope that the Commanders can keep their coaching staff together and they can stay at least 3 or 4 years, and just
So you
continue to achieve some type of success, uh, playoff consistency, with Jaden Daniels.
so
But
you still
I really like what they're doing.
you still believe in Cliff Kingsbury? I don't know. I mean, he starts off hot, then he starts off cold. You know, he's I don't know. I
He's
trust his
definitely a
offensive
QB
mind.
whisperer.
Yeah, that part. Yeah, yeah.
He's definitely a QB whisperer. I think he'll be a hot name. Um, he'll be a hot name, but I hope he stays in Washington. I
Mhm.
hope he stays in Washington. I hope, Jaden Daniels continues that up and up. I mean, I think, we just talked about CJ Stroud and Jaden Daniels, their, growth.
Right.
So, hopefully Jaden Daniels, you know, he's gonna get better. He's gonna be better next year. I mean, people are already comparing him to Lamar Jackson, which I don't think is fair.
Nah,
But
no.
my pick is Detroit, and
I love Dan Campbell. I love Dan Campbell, by the way. He is
yeah,
such a
I like their defensive coordinator,
Aaron
Glenn.
Aaron Glenn,
I
yeah.
think he's gonna be a head coach one day.
Yeah.
He'll probably be a head coach this next year,
Hmm.
possibly. You know,
Him and offensive coordinator Ben Johnson.
yeah, Ben Johnson. Yeah, he's gonna be a hot name too.
Yeah. Not this, I'm going with Detroit. I think this might be the largest blowout of this weekend, but it's nothing to discredit Washington this entire because I just think offensively, Detroit, you have Gibbs, you have Amon St. Brown,
Yeah,
Laportier.
or
Like there's just too many weapons. Jameis Williams, if he keeps his head underwater, he's the quickest guy in the NFL. Like point
yeah,
A to point B, he's gone. But
yeah. They got the
even
culture.
they got the culture. Yeah. Their
They
defense,
definitely got the culture.
I still worry about their defense. I feel like they got too many falling dominoes there, but they still find a way to win. Like what they did to Sam Darnold last week was just 2 weeks ago was ridiculous. Like I mean, it was a win to go home, and it was just their defense came to rise. It was like 4th and goal situations, stopped them, held them to like 9 points. That Detroit Lions defense is under the radar, but they haven't bended yet. They haven't broken up yet. Like you said, shout out to Aaron Glenn. He's a great defensive coordinator. Should be a head coach, but I go Detroit. Um, Washington is on the rise. They're a team to fear in the next couple of years. So sky's the limit for them. Dan Quinn is a great coach too. So I'm gonna go with Detroit on that as well. All right, the Sunday game. This might be the most interesting game. It's the LA Rams and Philadelphia Eagles. Um,
Yeah,
I'm a Philly guy. I'm
yeah,
a Philly homer. I love the Eagles.
yeah.
I picked the Eagles
All
to
right.
win. What do you say, Mike? Like,
It is interesting. I think this battle is gonna be one between the offensive defensive lines.
mhm,
It's gonna be it's gonna be one in the trenches. Um, Both to me are somewhat evenly matched. You got Cooper Cup and Nakua.
mhm.
You got uh
AJ Brown and
AJ Brown and
Devontae Smith.
Devontae Smith.
Mhm,
You got Kyron Williams. You got Shaquan Barkley. You got Stratford. You got Hurts.
mhm,
I mean, evenly matched. You got a good, very good offensive line in Philly. You got a pretty good offensive line um, with LA.
mhm.
Uh, it to me, it'll come down to quarterback play. Hurts to me doesn't look sharp.
He
He has
doesn't.
not. He has not played um, up to the standard I think that people want him to play, and maybe he doesn't have to play because of Barkley's ability running the football. I mean,
Mhm.
the last time they played, Barkley ran 250, put a 250 on the
255.
Rams. Yeah,
255.
and so it's kind of a matter of which LA team is going to show up.
Mhm,
Is are they going to learn from their mistakes from the first matchup? Are we going to see um, the LA team, the Rams team that beat the Bills, and the
mhm,
Vikings? Are we going to see that type of team, or are we going to see a team that just gets overwhelmed by the run game?
mhm.
Sirianni and McVay is what I believe this will ultimately come down to. It's
Oh
going to
no,
come down to coaching
I don't want
and
that.
who outcoaches who,
I don't
because the
want.
matchup is there,
Yeah.
but it's going to be who outcoaches who
Mm,
and who. sticks to the script and who just goes off the rails. I think if the Rams come out firing on all cylinders, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and if Philly comes out slow, it could be an uphill battle because the defensive line of the Rams, they're not a joke.
They're not.
They're legit.
They're not.
And so my pick my pick is the Rams
I figured.
in the upset
I figured.
on the road. I think with the emotion of LA, with
Mm-hmm.
the fires,
No.
things that are going on, there's a competitiveness that will bring that, I think, out of a team, you
Mm-hmm.
know, to feel the weight or not pressure, but just to have that in the back of your mind. We're not just playing for ourselves. We're playing for the whole city of LA, you
It's
know.
true. It's
So
true.
I think I'm gonna go with the Rams in an upset this week in Philly.
I got you. I got it. I think the X factor though is going to be the snow. I think snow is going to probably slow down the Rams. I just don't.
Mm.
I think they're pretty boys. I think Puka and Cooper, have they seen snow? Puka, has he seen snow? I'm sure Cooper probably has. Matthew Stafford's used to it because he played in Detroit, so I know he's used to snow. Everybody else, I don't know how they're going to play in snow. How they're going to affect the snow. I know they're going to be very positive, motivated because of the fires. LA fires is going on in LA, and prayers for those that are affected by the LA fires still going on. Um, I think for Philadelphia, I think AJ Brown. What did you think about AJ Brown reading during the on the sidelines during last week's playoff wild card game against Green Bay? Was it a good look, a bad look? Like, like
I
I
think it's
liked it.
kind of funny. But
I
I
liked it.
think they're downplaying the rift between him and Hurts.
Mm-hmm.
I that's what I think. I think
So you think there is something going on? There's a
I
thing going.
mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think AJ he definitely deserves the attention on the field.
Mm-hmm.
He should be your number one option. But
Yeah,
I just think that it hurts. I don't know. I don't know if it's an injury. I don't know what it is.
I
I
still
don't know
think
if
it's
it's
a
a hand
concussion.
injury or whatever is going on with Hurts.
I still think
But
it's the
he's just
concussion.
not delivering the football the
Right.
way that we're used to seeing him deliver football.
I think it's the concussion. He's still a little like because I could tell the Green Bay Packer game like he didn't throw first. Like your first instinct throw. He double hinged and then looked and then ran around and incomplete pass. It's like he was out. I feel like Kenny Pickett should have probably played that game. I don't think Jalen was ready, but it's the playoffs. He needed to play. I get all that,
Oh
but
yeah, he
he
definitely
had
needed
to
to
play.
play. I mean, I think that was a sneaky game too, though, because
Mm-hmm.
Green Bay, they're not a bad team
They're
either.
not. They're
You
not.
know, they're not a bad team either. And
Just
Love,
Jordan Love took him out the game. Jordan Love took him out the game with 3 picks.
yeah,
He took him
Jordan
out.
Love was he just underperformed. But
Underperformed.
it's a credit to it's a credit to Philly's defense.
Yeah.
They're going to be without Dean this game.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll see
Wow.
how they respond to that. And, again, I think it ultimately just gonna come down to coaching.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's gonna come down to coaching. On Monday, are we gonna be talking about how many carries Shaquan had? Did he get the ball enough?
Mm-hmm.
Or, are we gonna be talking about, Hurts' inability to get AJ Brown the ball? Are we gonna
Yeah.
the storyline's gonna be unbelievable,
Mm-hmm.
if Philadelphia doesn't win this game. I think LA is definitely capable of winning
Last but certainly not least, this probably is the best
game of
game.
the
I'm
week.
over. Yeah, you know what? This is the best game. I mean, ours might be the second best game. This is the game. This is
The
like for
game
the
of the week.
MVP. This is for the MVP. This is for bragging rights. Like Derrick Henry and Lamar and them. So basically, Baltimore plays Buffalo. I I'm going with Buffalo because I just think Josh Allen's on another level right now, like quarterback play. I just think he's just I know Lamar's doing Lamar things. It's probably his best year ever. But we have Derrick Henry just doing what he wants to do. It opens up a little bit more for you, Lamar, to do your thing. I'm waiting for the playoff Lamar. Regular season Lamar is the greatest of all time. It's like Peyton Manning Jr. esque, you know. But it gets to playoff time, Lamar just doesn't show up. So I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that moment for Lamar. But in the meantime, I'm choosing Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. What say
defeating
you,
the
Mike?
Bills.
Yes.
Yeah, I think this is so much pressure on Lamar Jackson because he could potentially be three-time
3 times.
MVP,
Yeah.
three-time MVP, and you don't have a chip, you don't have a championship yet.
Oh, went to a
So
Super
this
Bowl.
game is
No
a
has been to a
whole
Super
lot
Bowl.
more for Lamar than
Mm-hmm.
it is Josh Allen. And like you said, this is an element game. This is a this is a snow type of game. This is a cold weather game
Mm-hmm.
on the road. Uh, um, if if they definitely don't need Lamar to be Superman.
Right.
They just need to stick to the basics. I really think whoever wins this game, to me, should be the MVP.
That's fair.
That's what
That's
I think. I know the numbers are astronomically in Lamar Jackson's favor,
mm-hmm.
but I really think if Josh Allen and the Bills, if Josh Allen makes enough plays, that he should be the MVP of the league after this game
Yeah. And it
if they
gets to
win.
like voter fatigue. It's like, okay, it's kind of like how LeBron in his heyday and maybe Joker now, they can easily give Joker in Denver. They can easily give him MVP because he's that good. He brings a triple double. He's a triple double machine. They're just tired of voting for Joker, and MVP is like, okay, let's try to give it. Let's give it to somebody else. You know, who got it last year? Who was the MVP of NBA last year? It wasn't Joker. It was not Luca. And who was the
Embiid.
Embiid? I like Joel Embiid, but there's no way Joker's better than Embiid. I mean, it's just like, but
Yeah,
they got tired. They
Embiid to
got
me, he
tired
had
of
to
voting.
beg. He had to beg to be the MVP
Yeah,
last year.
it was Joker.
He's
I
begging
mean,
on social media for that one.
yeah, he didn't want to play him head to head. It's like, come on, like, let's.
Yeah,
I felt like it was Joker, but they got tired
yeah,
of voting for Joker to win. It's like, okay, let's give it to Embiid. Let's go
yeah,
ahead and give it to Embiid. The same thing with Lamar here. It's like, okay, Lamar is a two-time MVP. He hasn't been to the Super Bowl yet. He's going to be a three-time MVP maybe this year with no MVP, no Super Bowl like appearance. It
yeah.
needs to change. That narrative needs to
He's
change.
gotta win. I mean, Lamar has a unique skill set which sets him above and apart from every quarterback in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Allen has similar and has had more success, I would say, in the playoffs, at least taking Patrick Mahomes to the brink, at least, and almost beating them. And I mean, they beat them this year.
It is.
The Bills beat the Kansas City this year. So,
Um,
and Lamar couldn't get it done the first week of the season.
a
Granted,
lot
he
of
was by a toe, you know, but
vibe break.
still, I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
I mean, there was a lot of hype for that game too.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot of pressure for that game. And the thing is, the Ravens aren't playing at home.
They're in both. Yeah.
They're in Buffalo.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna have to go to Kansas City even if they win this game.
Mm-hmm.
So, in a way, the Ravens kind of underperformed this year.
Yeah.
With a couple, they just had a couple of bad losses, but a loss is a loss.
Jameis, my boy Jameis, the Reverend Jameis Winston, beat them. So I love
Oh,
Jameis. Well, Jameis is a character by itself, but um, yeah, you're right. I mean,
uh,
Buffalo has. I mean, Baltimore is definitely a little underachieved this year. Their defense is up and down. It's a roller coaster. Their defense. Buffalo's defense is about the same. I mean, it's 10
and
9.
their defense isn't great. I mean,
Yeah,
Buffalo's defense is not
it's
great, but
great
they're
defense.
very opportunistic. They
Right.
still got uh they got some players. You know, they've
Mhm,
been hurt too. They've been
mhm,
injured too. Uh, but they can make some noise defensively.
mhm.
I think Zay Flowers, though, you know, for Baltimore, you know, he's kind of questionable. You know, if he can stretch the field, he can make some big plays. It's really gonna come down to just big plays. You know, if Lamar wins this game, whew, man,
It can't just be Derrick Henry, right? It
yeah,
can't because
I just
Derrick
yeah,
Henry killed them. He killed Buffalo last game. I think he had like an
yeah,
80-yard touchdown run. I think he ended up with almost 200 yards rushing against this team. So they're gonna
yeah.
try to take him out.
You
Take
gotta
Derrick
fill the
Henry out.
holes,
Yeah,
his
yeah,
running lanes. If you
yeah.
can do that and, you know, then yeah, it's gonna come down to ball control
Hmm.
and clock management, game planning. It's gonna come down to the coaches. I think, that's really what the playoffs is all about. It's
Hmm.
gonna come down to offense, defensive lines, and it's gonna come down to coaching. Who
Hmm.
wins the final 3 to 4 minutes of each quarter or of each game, of the fourth quarter, the second half. Who wins those? Who manages the clock better? It's gonna come down to who makes a play.
Hmm.
If Lamar's turning the ball over, if he's fumbling, I think Lamar in these big games he fumbles way too much.
Hmm.
Fumbles way too much. Turns the
Too loose
ball
with
over.
too loose with the
And
ball.
he's gotta hold on to the football. Um,
And Josh Allen too. Josh Allen likes to play backyard. Remember the game backyard football where they would be in
yeah,
the backyard? That's how Josh Allen plays. Like just old school backyard. I'm gonna throw it five people like in the area. I'm still gonna throw it to Tyler Johnson in the back of the end zone. The only ball you saw it against Denver. Like he threw that thing in Tyler Johnson's feet, the backup running back. Didn't even. I don't know how he made that catch.
I don't
I
know
don't
how he
know
made
the throw.
that
I don't
throw,
know.
that catch, that whole sequence was wild.
Like I'm just like, how did he do that? But that's how he plays,
Yeah,
like backyard football. So that's gonna be interesting. That game that's the best game of the
yeah.
week. Yeah, you think Baltimore? You say Baltimore, right?
I said Bills
Bills.
in the
Okay,
upset,
okay,
and
okay.
mainly because they're at home. I just think the Bills defense, I think they're gonna make enough plays to maybe not limit uh Derrick Henry,
Mm-hmm.
but they're gonna make enough plays to slow him down. And I just think that Lamar Jackson is gonna fold under the pressure a little bit. I think he's gonna fold under the pressure. You know, I love to be wrong, but
Yeah,
picking the Bills at
yeah,
home, that's tough.
yeah, yeah.
I mean,
Well,
unless you Patrick Mahomes has done it before.
yeah, yeah.
He's beaten the Bills at home on their home on in
And Baltimore,
Buffalo
he did it last
and
year.
Baltimore.
Yeah.
So it's gonna come down to coaching turnovers, the weather, and
Mm-hmm.
who they can slow down the most.
You're right. You're right. So it should be four really good games, divisional playoff games. You win against my Eagles, it's fine. You're not the only one, Mike. So like you're not the only one. So it should be all good games. I'm excited to see how this all plays out and who will be in the conference championship games next week. It should be a good one. All right, you guys. Where can people find you on social, Michael?
Um, you can find me on social media. Uh, my Twitter is Mr. Miles. Uh, MRM, yeah, MRMILES.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me there. One of the things I think that I'm looking to do is uh winning time. So at the end of games when it gets like to the fourth quarter, thinking about going live and just talking about the few seconds left,
Mm,
last few seconds left in the game.
mm,
I might start doing that. And I'm also on YouTube as
mm,
well.
mm-hmm,
Starting some streaming, get some streaming done.
mm.
Winning time.
I would like to join. I
Mike,
would like
Mike.
to join you. I would love to join you. Talk about that.
Yeah,
Like,
my YouTube is winning time MM25.
mm,
Mike, and uh, might go live at the end of some key games. I think tonight, we got the Tigers playing Temple at 6, and we got a couple of games, couple of NBA games.
Cleveland and OKC. Cleveland
Oh
OKC.
yeah, yeah,
Mm,
yep,
mm.
yep.
6:30.
That's
6:30
gonna be a good
match.
one.
Yeah.
Yep, that's gonna be a good one too. So there are just a few things, a few ventures, and things that I'm looking at doing on as far as like a podcast type. But
Okay.
yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook.
With that being said, you guys, I'm your host, Greg Rufus, and my special guest, Michael Myers. We will see you guys next week. Until then,
Sir,
peace out.
peace out.
Throw it down, big man.